One thing I've had on and off for at least 8 years is a health savings account, but I'm kicking myself because I haven't been really using it to its full potential. I really just kept it at the contribution that my job gives me, and I've just left it at that. If you are someone who has yourself and your family on your insurance, they give you $1,000 per year, which is like great. And honestly, a lot of times it probably did cover the type of medical expenses that we may have had overall, and we didn't have to come out of pocket a whole lot. But this year specifically, we have had the most medical expenses that I've had ever, aside from when I gave birth to my kids. And we were in October and I have not contributed any of my own money to it at all, ever, which I'm kicking myself for, but it's really not too late. I think also I really just did not like the commitment of having to contribute a certain amount from my paycheck every single time. Like, I just didn't really like that. But as I looked more into what options were available, not only through my job, but through my HSA portal, I did see that I can contribute after tax. So basically just taking a withdrawal from my bank account and contributing that way, which I do like. I'm not gonna say I like it a lot more, but it's more flexible for me, especially with us being on this journey of trying to pay off our house right now. That's where most of our money goes. And I don't wanna have to say, okay, wait, let me put aside money for this, money for that, what have you. So I've done a lot of research into it lately. I've learned a decent amount about it and I want to talk about it. Like I said, recently is when I've really been getting into it. So I'm by no means an expert. If you want to do your own research, I fully support you in that, but there are some things that I have learned. Also, a few links that I have come across that I'll put in the description as well, as far as how you can benefit from it. First things first, you have to have a high deductible health plan, and those limits can change year over year. For 2024, if you are in a health plan by yourself, you have to have an annual deductible of at least $1,600, but for family coverage, you have to have a family deductible of $3,200. We fit that threshold by light years. Our deductible this year is $8,000, but there's not a whole lot of options through my job. Like, you could get a lower one, and like I've talked about before, I'm the type where I'd rather have my maximum amount of paycheck and pay for something more so up to my deductible if it actually happens, rather than paying more bi-weekly out of my paycheck for something that could happen that might not happen at all. And even still, here in the US, even after you reach your deductible, you're still responsible for a decent amount if something happens, depending on your plan, of course. But our out-of-pocket max is also $8,000. There are a few exclusions when you can't contribute to one. Can't be enrolled in Medicare, can't be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. Now, as far as contributions, there is a limit on that. For 2024, if you are on a plan by yourself, you can contribute $4,150 for the entire year. If you are on a plan with your family, this year in 2024, you can contribute up to $8,300. That does include the $1,000 that my company contributes. For 2025, the contribution limits are going up. $4,300 for an individual, $8,550 for family. If you're 55 and older, they do let you do a little bit more, an additional $1,000 as a catch-up contribution. People talk about a lot how it's a triple tax savings account, because when you contribute pre-tax, that is using pre-tax dollars. If you contribute after you get your paycheck, you can get a tax deduction. You don't have to pay taxes on the money that's in there. It can grow tax-free if you invest those funds. I love that you don't have to lose the money that you have in a health savings account. You can carry it into the next year and the next year. The money's not gone until you actually use all the money. These things should be spent on medical expenses, qualified medical expenses. If you use it for other things, you could get penalized, taxed by the IRS. But there are a lot of things you can use this for, not only for co-pays and doctor's bills, but you could also use it for other things like IVF, breast pumps, pain relievers, like over-the-counter medicine, your prescriptions. Like, there's so many things, and for sure research what you could use it for. Feminine hygiene products. Look into it, because there's so many things out there that you can use it for, guys. Like, the main thing that we're going to be using it this is for medical expenses, because surely we have a ton of those. And make sure you keep track with your contributions, because over contributing can also result in tax penalties. I don't know about you guys, I would rather pay less to the IRS if possible. It's already so much money that we have to pay to the IRS. Like, if I can pay less money to them, I need to do that. Like I said, I'm already kicking myself because we've already had, what, at least $1,500 worth of medical expenses this year that I just was not looking into my options with the HSA, but we still have at least $2,500 more to pay this year. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Another thing that I actually saw someone comment on one of my socials when I talked about HSAs, they thought that if you don't itemize your taxes, you can't get the tax deduction. That's not true. Even if you don't itemize your taxes, which majority of Americans don't, you can still get the tax deduction, which is amazing. A lot of people also use this as like a retirement account, which makes sense. If you invest enough in your young adulthood and like just keep maxing it out and you don't use that amount every year and then you invest that money can really help you after in your retirement days. I feel like now that I've actually taken the time to like educate myself on HSAs, I really just feel like there's no reason not to contribute to one, like if you do have that option, especially because the average person I feel like has a deductible of at least $1,600 for a single person or $3,200 for a family. So a lot of people can take advantage of it. Okay, because I was so curious, I looked up the options for my job's health plans. We had pretty much 3 options because the 4th option is kind of like a specialty type insurance where every place may not take this type of insurance. So really I just based it off the 3 options. And for myself, the options were a deductible of $3,500 or $1,800 or $8,000. Of those 3 options, I went with the highest deductible, cheapest plan. I pay, taking out the health evaluation and just a regular cost, it would have been $178 bi-weekly, which let's just say $180. For the $1,800 deductible plan, which was the most expensive option, I would have been paying $323 bi-weekly. For the middle option, which is a deductible of $3,500, I would have been paying $241 bi-weekly prior to my health evaluation credit. With my plan, if I reach my deductible, I don't have to pay any more medical costs for the rest of the year. So that's kind of why I chose the cheapest one. It just made the most sense to me. I don't feel like it would have changed things a whole lot just because the middle option, I just barely went over it at this point. It's always a gamble. I'm waiting for the next option to come to plan for 2025. But I feel like those are some of the main things with the HSA. Honestly, to me, it's just like, why not? Like, I feel like you should, if you have a high deductible plan, you're not on Medicare, you're not on someone else's tax return, you're not enrolled in a health plan that's not an HSA plan, then it's like, why not? You're gonna have some type of medical expenses. Like, these are some of the main things that I've learned so far. I'm obsessed with it at this point. I feel like I want to use it for the rest of my life and never not use it. I also want to take advantage of other things that allow you to have tax deductions, like the 529 that my kids have set up that help us with our state income tax. So that's a whole other thing that I may make a video on in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this was helpful.